Hey guys, tonight we're setting off on a soft and slightly confused adventure. One where clouds might be dragons, nights are mostly sleepy, and your only real duty is to drift deeper and deeper into the story with each breath you take. You're standing, well, sort of slouching, at the edge of a meadow where the grass sways like lullabies, and a gentle mist hugs your ankles like a half-remembered blanket. You squint at the horizon, where the sky is stitched in soft velvet pinks and sleepy oranges. And right there, you spot it, a cloud, big, billowy, suspicious. It lumbers across the sky with an almost too deliberate wobble, and it has this little swirl at the front that, if you tilt your head, kind of looks like a snout. Not a proper dragon snout, mind you, a soft marshmallowy one, but still, possibly fire breath adjacent. You lean a bit closer to the breeze and mutter, The grass, perhaps misunderstanding your intentions, bows low, as if offering you its sleepy support. You're not really what people would call awake. You are Sir Whiffle of the third yawn. Or perhaps it was the fifth nap. Titles get blurry after a while. Your armor clinks politely when you walk, the chainmail lined with quilted flannel, and your helmet replaced by a padded nightcap held on with a chin strap. Your steed, Pillowmane, a gentle creature with hooves like muffled bells, paws at the earth. Or maybe just pats it affectionately. You sigh. Could be a dragon. Could also be a very rude cumulonimbus. Pillowmane snorts, which is either agreement or indigestion. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And let me know in the comments where you're listening from and what time it is right now in your part of the dreamy world. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You begin your trek through the meadow of soft regrets, where every step triggers a sigh from the soil. Not a sad sigh, more of a, wasn't that nap delightful sort of sigh. Wildflowers here bloom in sleepy shades, lavender, faded honey, moonlit cream. One drowsy blossom even yawns as you pass. The path ahead meanders like it's too polite to decide where it's going. You follow it anyway, because you've always been more of a follower than a decision maker, especially after sundown. Overhead, the cloud, that possible dragon, lazily keeps pace, drifting just a little to the left of logic. You try to recall the nightly procedures for investigating suspicious sky anomalies, but all you come up with is, Step 1, point at it. Step 2, say, aha. Step 3, wait for someone braver. But alas, you're alone. The birds are already asleep, their snores drifting like bubbles from their treetop nests. Even the wind seems to be napping, barely nudging your cape as it snoozes in long, whispery exhales. There's an old myth that clouds sometimes watch people. Not in a scary way, more like curious toddlers peeking over cribs. In the eastern tales of Pillowdell, it's believed that clouds collect dreams. Each tuft a tale, they say. Each puff a pocket of possibility. And when clouds get too full, they turn into dragons not to fight, but to yawn and stretch across the sky, letting the dreams spill gently into the world. You wonder what kind of dreams might be swirling inside this one. As you approach the edge of the meadow, a flock of gnatbirds flutters past. They don't flap, they fluff, drifting like drifting things with nowhere in particular to go. One of them, a particularly plump one with feathers like cotton candy, circles you once and drops a note. You unroll it. It reads, "Dear Sir Knight, you are probably not in danger. Regards, the Bureau of Cloud-Based Misunderstandings." You blink. Well, that clears up absolutely nothing. Pillowmane noses your elbow, clearly expecting something knightly from you. You nod solemnly and tug at your tunic, which is mostly made of quilt patches. Right, onward. The path dips into a sleepy valley filled with whispering reeds. You hear one mumble, "Shh, he's coming," as you pass. Your boots, soft-bottomed for sneaking up on naps, make no sound. Somewhere off to the left, a stream gurgles a lullaby sung in bubbling syllables. The cloud is lower now. You squint again. It does look vaguely scaled. Or maybe just lumpy. Hard to say. You pause beside a large, mossy rock shaped rather like a footstool. It radiates a warmth that suggests it's been sunbathing for 100 years. You sit, because all great adventures begin with a thoughtful pause. And because you're sleepy. Mostly that. Looking up, the cloud tilts. It winks or sneezes. Or did you just imagine that? Nope. Definite eyelash movement. Sparkly, glittery, in a barely there kind of way. You reach for your official nightly field guide, which doubles as a pillow in emergencies, flipping to the page titled Distinguishing Between Dragons and Overly Expressive Clouds. You scan the list. Breathes fire? Unclear. Possesses hoard? Only emotional baggage, probably. Snores thunderously? Give it time. You close the book and sigh. Still inconclusive. Some say the land of Yondam was formed from the drool of a sleeping star. That's why the rivers shimmer with starlight, and why no one ever truly gets lost here. They just drift. You're starting to feel it now, that tug behind your eyes. The soft heaviness that says, there's nothing urgent, really. Just follow the story and see where it takes you. The cloud, dragon or not, drifts eastward, tugged by a wind you can't hear. You rise slowly, dusting sleep from your shoulders, and climb back into the saddle. Pillowmane murmurs approval, his ears twitching like sleepy kittens. You ride. The horizon glows with that impossible twilight only stories can create. One where the sun is forever just below the hills, and the stars are only pretending to wait their turn. You wonder if you're supposed to fight the dragon, or thank it, or curl up beside it and borrow some of its fluff for a blanket. Whatever happens, you suspect you'll do it very politely, and maybe with snacks. But first, the journey. You follow the cloud. Not in a determined, heroic way, more like in the way a cat might follow a drifting patch of sun across the carpet. Sleepily, half accidentally. Your armor creaks in a soothing rhythm, like a bed frame that's heard one too many lullabies. Pillowmane trots in the path of least resistance, which is also, coincidentally, the path of softest moss. The landscape changes as you descend into the fog-kissed folds of Mossdown Hill, a lumpy, squishy bump in the world that appears to have been designed by someone halfway through a nap. The stones here are round, smoothed by centuries of shrugging off importance. Wild mushrooms lean on each other like gossiping ants. And the trees don't grow tall. They just sort of lean, as if stretching would be too much bother. You arrive at the Yawning Gate, a great stone arch embedded into the side of the hill. Vines with silver leaves sway across its face, humming faint lullabies. At the center of the arch, slumped on a cushion of ivy, is a stone lion the size of a barn. He is fast asleep. Each snore he emits is accompanied by a puff of sleepy moss from his nostrils. A worn brass plaque reads, "To enter the Vale of Sleep, kindly riddle the lion," and scribbled underneath in chalk, unless he's really, really tired. You dismount with a satisfying ploof and clear your throat. "Sir Lion." No answer, just a long, rumbly snore that echoes into the hollows of the hill, like the exhale of the world itself. You tap the lion's paw politely with your elbow. "Pardon, noble beast. Might I enter?" The lion opens one eye, slowly, as though every blink is a philosophical decision. "Sit riddle time already?" he mumbles, his stone lips not quite moving. "Only if you're up for it," you reply gently. He yawns, the kind of yawn that could dislocate reality if it weren't so lazy. Somewhere in the distance, a shepherd falls asleep standing up. "Fine. One riddle, then you let me go back to dreaming about marmalade." You nod solemnly. "Ready." The lion blinks at you and says, "What always rests but never sleeps, always waits but never wakes?" You frown. You pace a few steps, your boots squishing into moss like polite pudding. "That sounds very theoretical," the lion grunts. "Take your time. I'm not in a rush. I haven't moved since the reign of Queen Tuffet." You sit down beside him. A soft breeze drifts by, bringing with it the scent of warm milk and freshly baked mooncakes. You close your eyes for a moment, letting the drowsy air work its magic. Then it hits you. "Is it a pillow?" The lion chuckles, a slow, gravely sound. "You're not wrong, but it's not the answer I had in mind." "Oh, it's the gate, of course." He gestures with one lazy claw. "Been sitting here since time remembered to forget itself." You blink. "Wait, was that a trick question?" "Technically, yes." He yawns again. "But you gave a comfy answer. That counts." The ground rumbles faintly as the gate creaks open, revealing a gentle slope carpeted in soft lavender fog. Beyond, the sleepy vale stretches wide and glimmering, fields of fluttering dreamgrass, slow-turning windmills shaped like dozing cats, and far in the distance that same cloud still watching. Maybe. If clouds can be said to watch. You thank the lion. He's already snoring again, one paw twitching like he's dreaming of chasing the idea of chasing something. As you walk through the gate, Pillowmane saunters beside you, snuffling at the fragrant mist. Here in the vale, everything seems just slightly muffled, like the world is under a thick quilt. There are no sharp corners, no sudden sounds. Even the birds sing in lowercase letters. You pass a field where mushrooms hum harmonies in their sleep, growing slowly toward moonlight. A gentle river meanders without much interest in going anywhere, its surface dotted with floating reeds shaped like question marks. One of them waves at you lazily, and then you hear it. Soft whispers, layered with snores and distant lullabies. You've entered the dream chorus of Mossdown, where the wind carries stories that never end and never begin. A soft voice brushes your cheek like dandelion fluff. You have walked between waking and sleeping. Be kind, and do not step on the dreams. You pause. Look down. Indeed, nestled among the moss are dozens of tiny glowing bubbles. Each one flickers with a half-formed scene. A rabbit juggling teacups, a castle built entirely from socks, a slow-motion dance between two clouds. You sidestep them carefully. One pops as you pass, releasing the scent of cinnamon, and was that the sound of applause? Every so often, a soft breeze rearranges your thoughts. You were worrying about something. Maybe the cloud, maybe dinner. But it floats away, replaced by the satisfying image of a penguin reading a bedtime story to a lantern. There's a saying in this region, those who walk Mossdown Hill rarely remember why they climbed it. Another, to truly rest, one must pass through a gate that's already forgotten you. You're beginning to see the truth in both. As twilight deepens to a gentler blue, Pillowmane stops to nibble on a patch of lullaby grass, plants known for causing spontaneous napping in goats, poets, and small orchestras. You let him rest. You sit beneath a swaying tree, its leaves shaped like question marks and commas. And again, you look up. That cloud is still there. Lower now, puffier. You squint. There might be tiny horns, or very enthusiastic tufts. Hard to say. Still watching, you murmur, but you're not afraid. Not really. Just curious. The kind of curiosity that happens right before you fall asleep in the middle of a sentence. Some say that clouds here carry the memories of the sky, that when they drift low like this, they're looking for someone who's misplaced a dream. Maybe this one is following you. Maybe you've lost something without knowing it. You don't remember losing anything. But then again, you also don't remember how long you've been walking, or what day it is, or what time naps are officially supposed to happen. You sigh, letting your eyes drift closed for just a moment. The moss sighs back. In this valley, the rules are soft. Dragons can be clouds, riddles can be half-answered, lions can nap on the job, and you, well, you can simply be. For now. You wake, not fully, just enough to remember that you were dreaming. Or maybe you still are. It's hard to tell in the veil of sleep, where even consciousness has frayed edges. The sky above is a deep, sleepy violet now. The cloud, your maybe dragon, maybe mirage, has taken up residence directly overhead. It drifts in slow circles like a very polite guardian, trailing a bit of sparkly mist that falls in lazy spirals and vanishes before it reaches the ground. Pillowmane is grazing nearby, occasionally looking up to blink at you as if to say, "Are we still doing this whole adventure thing, or?" You stretch. The tree you were napping beneath rustles gently, offering you a leaf that smells faintly of honey and thyme. You tuck it into your belt, because in places like this, you never know when a leaf might be helpful. As you prepare to move on, a gentle tapping reaches your ears, like raindrops, but far too rhythmic. It's coming from the hill just beyond the lavender mist, where a small figure is balancing delicately on one foot atop a mushroom as wide as a dining table. She's dressed in robes made of stitched feathers, and her hat is, well, it's actually just a nest with 3 tiny sleeping sparrows in it. She notices you and waves. "Ah, a knight of the wandering nap," she cries in a voice as soft as warm dough. You blink. Yes, that's me. "I am Wimble, cloud counter of the eastern spindle," she proclaims, hopping down from the mushroom with a little thwump. "And you, Sir Yon, are trespassing precisely where the sky begins to forget its weight." "Oh dear," you say. "Is that bad?" No, just a bit inconvenient. You see, this is where cloud thoughts condense. If one gets too curious about you, it may choose to follow, or become something. You glance upward. I think it already has. Wimble pulls out a long scroll and unrolls it. It lists things like wispy inclinations, puff aggressions, and draconic drizzle patterns. She taps the page. That's not just a cloud, that's a Type 7 Fluffwyrm. You squint. I thought dragons had wings and teeth and a dramatic backstory? Most do. Fluffwyrms, however, are formed entirely of condensed speculation and unsaid wishes. They're very rare, very sleepy, and absolutely non-hostile, unless you insult their shape. You look up again. It's symmetrical. A happy rumble echoes through the sky. Wimble nods approvingly. Excellent. You've made a friend. A sudden gust of warm breeze brings the scent of roasted marsh roots and caramel air. Wimble tilts her head. You're going to need a token, she says. If you're truly being followed by a fluffworm, it means you've been chosen. For what? Well, nobody really knows, but you'll need a pocket of wind, it's tradition. You stare at her. A pocket of wind. Yes, comes in a velvet pouch, very cozy, very handy, holds exactly one sigh and two whispers. She pats her many satchels, pulling out a pouch made from what appears to be dream mouse fur. Here, it's warm. Keep it near your heart. You accept it reverently. It purrs faintly in your hand. As you tuck the pouch into your tunic, Wimble leans closer. Now, listen well. You're heading toward the Drowsy Heights. There's a watchtower at the edge, guarded by a flock of pillow geese and a custodian who's forgotten her own bedtime. Sounds secure. Oh no, very porous, but charming. She'll likely offer you tea and a question. You nod, bowing politely. Thank you, Lady Wimble. She returns the bow by doing a slow-motion somersault. May your naps be uninterrupted. With that, she vanishes into the mist, leaving behind a small feather that flutters gently into your palm. It glows faintly, like a leftover compliment. You mount Pillowmane again. His ears twitch as if he already knows what's next. You ride upward now. The air grows cooler but not cold, crisper but not sharp. You cross a stretch of land where the ground softly sings beneath your hooves, melodies without words, half-remembered tunes you might have heard in a cradle. Somewhere in the distance, wind chimes jingle softly. They hang from nothing, just floating in place, catching breezes that aren't quite there. And then, just as Wimble promised, you spot it, the Watchtower of Never Quite. It's not a tower in the traditional sense, more like a spiral of half-finished thoughts built from dreamstone and old bedtime stories. It loops upward, wider at the top than the base, and glows with that cozy amber light that usually only comes from hearths or friendly libraries. At its base are the geese, dozens of them. Big, plump, white as whipped cream, and each wearing a nightcap. They waddle slowly, flapping occasionally, honking in harmony as if rehearsing for a lullaby orchestra. You dismount. The nearest goose approaches, eyes you for a long moment, then honks 3 times, gently, with meaning. Pillowmane bows his head in return. Diplomatic relations established. The door to the tower creaks open and out shuffles the custodian. She's perhaps 90, perhaps 900. Wrapped in patchwork robes that trail slightly behind her, she peers at you through spectacles shaped like crescent moons. Her hair defies gravity in the soft way that only Dreamkeeper's hair can. Ah, she says, another night on cloud duty. You're early, or late. Time's still making up its mind. She beckons you in. Inside, the air smells of parchment and starlight. Tea brews itself in the corner, pouring quietly into cups shaped like thimbles. There's a purring stack of blankets on a rocking chair, and a collection of old bedtime hourglasses ticking at irregular speeds. Sit, she says. Drink, answer. You do. The tea tastes like memory, yours probably, but softer than you remember. She peers at you and asks, what do you seek from something that seeks you? You nearly choke on your tea. That's the question, you ask. It is, she says, rocking slowly. And you don't need to answer it now, but the fluffworm will ask, eventually. You look out the window. The cloud is closer again. Still drifting, still vast, still oddly affectionate in shape. What do you seek? Companionship? Meaning? A good nap under the right kind of sky? You don't know. But somehow, that seems okay for now. Some say the tower was built by sleep itself, a place where dreams are gathered for safekeeping. Some even whisper that if you spend too long inside, you forget everything except how to be still. You finish your tea. The custodian hands you a soft pin shaped like a cloud with a tiny question mark in its center. For when it asks, she murmurs. You nod, and Pillowmane whinnies softly outside. Time to go. You descend the steps and remount. The pillow geese flap their wings once, offering a low farewell honk. The tower fades behind you like a dream slipping back into the pillows of the world. Above, the fluffworm waits. You ride on, deeper into the hills where the moon forgets to rise on time and shadows have the consistency of warm soup. The world here is not asleep, exactly. It's more like it's halfway through a nap and refuses to be disturbed. The path isn't really a path anymore. It's more of a suggestion. Velvet moss carpets everything, muffling the sound of Pillowmane's hooves to something like polite applause. Faint glimmers drift through the air, some shaped like commas, others like old promises. Somewhere behind you, the watchtower of Neverquite vanishes with a sigh, like a book closing itself. You round a bend and find yourself in a glade bathed in lavender twilight. At its center is a great pond that does not ripple. Its surface is a perfect mirror, and in it you see not your reflection, but the dream you might have had last night had you stayed home in bed. There you are, dream you, reclined in a hammock made of giant sunflower petals, sipping something in a porcelain cup labeled Ambition Tea, decaf. Pillowmane is there too, wearing spectacles and reading a book titled How to Recognize a Mistaken Dragon in 12 Simple Steps. You wave. Dream you waves back. You're not sure if it's polite to wave at one's own hypothetical self, but it feels right. Then, from the edge of the pond, a voice says, "Careful. If you stare too long, you'll start answering questions you haven't been asked yet." You turn. A short, broad-nosed creature with sleepy eyes and a coat like midnight fog is stirring tea in a cup that floats midair. He wears a crumpled waistcoat and no trousers, and the teacup seems to contain exactly one miniature thunderstorm. "I'm Nod," he says, "caretaker of the Pond of Unchosen Dreams." You nod back. "Sir Yawn, Knight of, well, I mistook a cloud for a dragon." "Ah, one of those quests." Nod sips his tea with a noise like rain hitting parchment. "We get a few like you every decade or so. You'll want to cross the pond, I expect." Yes, I think I do." "It's not hard," he says. "Just walk across on your questions." You blink. "Pardon?" Nod gestures toward the water. Sure enough, faint glowing shapes now appear across the surface. Questions, floating like lily pads. "What if I'm wrong? Where do forgotten ideas go? Did I leave the oven on? Is this what contentment feels like? Do clouds think in color or in shape?" Each question glows faintly, pulsing like a heartbeat. Nod gives you a gentle push. "Only step on the ones that still matter." You glance down. The questions shift. The ones that once gleamed brightest are already fading. You breathe. Think. Choose. Your first step is cautious, but the question beneath you holds. It's, what happens if I stop pretending to know? Solid footing. Then, what if this path isn't about dragons at all? Also firm. Pillowmane hesitates at the edge. You offer him your hand. He looks at you like he's silently evaluating whether your grasp on reality is quite firm enough. Then he steps daintily onto a question that reads, "Why is moss always the right answer?" The pond stretches out around you like stilled time. With each step, the sky dims slightly. Not darker, just duskier. You're not entirely sure if you're crossing a body of water or floating across a still moment in your own mind. Midway across, a gust of cool air wafts overhead. The Fluffwyrm passes slowly, drifting above like a curious thought. You feel no fear, just a sense of possibility. It's reshaped itself again. This time, its underbelly looks suspiciously like a page of sheet music. You almost hum. Nod's voice drifts from the shore behind you. When you reach the other side, you'll find the Hill of Forgotten Colors. Don't try to remember them, just feel. "What happens if I forget that I'm on a quest?" You call back. Nod chuckles. "Then you're probably doing it right." You step onto the final question. What if rest is the answer, not the reward? As soon as your foot touches the far shore, the pond ripples for the first time. Your dream self vanishes, waving as they go. The mirror becomes water again. The questions sink gently like falling feathers. You're on new ground now. The Hill of Forgotten Colors rises before you, humming with soft sound and warmth. Every blade of grass changes hue as you step. Not garish or glowing, just different. A green you don't have a name for. A blue that might only exist in size. A pink that smells like vanilla and looks like a memory you never made. At the crest of the hill, you find an old bench carved from slumberwood. The kind of bench designed not to sit on, but to sit with. It even sighs when you lean back, as if saying, "Ah, finally." From here, you can see the entire valley behind you, soft and slow and full of half-remembered whispers. And ahead, if you squint, a flickering trail of starlight winding into a deeper fold of the hills. That's when Pillowmane lets out a soft snort. You look up. The Fluffwyrm has drawn closer again. It circles overhead lazily, unfurling into a spiraling question mark of cloud and glimmer. A tendril of mist reaches towards you, not touching, not quite, just hovering. You feel something in your pocket, the velvet pouch. It's warm. A whisper escapes from it like a sigh. Do you want to know, or do you want to rest? You don't answer. Not yet, but you do smile. Some say the Hill of Forgotten Colors is where the world stores all its gentle questions. Others claim it's a place built from dreams that never made it into stories. One poet insisted the hill grew taller every time someone forgave themselves for being tired. You don't know which is true, but you do know this. The cloud above you is no longer just a cloud, and you are no longer just a night. You're something between knowing and wondering, between waking and sleeping, between a dragon and a dream. The bench doesn't ask anything of you, which feels revolutionary. You sit, you stay, you breathe the kind of breath that makes your shoulders lower for the first time in a century, maybe longer. Pillowmane lies down beside you, curling his legs underneath his silken body, tail flicking in slow, lazy loops that leave faint glimmers in the air. The Fluffwyrm is above still, drifting in such wide, unhurried circles that it feels less like patrolling and more like napping mid-flight. For a time, there is only wind, not the kind that rushes nor howls nor sings, just the hush of movement, like someone turning pages in a giant invisible book. And then, a sound. Thwip, clip, clink. You glance to your left. A short, round fellow in a bonnet and starched apron is gently hanging dreams on a clothesline that stretches between two spindly birch trees. The dreams, you notice, are shaped like tea bags, some glowing faintly, others twitching as though remembering something funny. Each one has a tiny tag: wistful picnic, failed spell that still smelled nice, that time you forgot to feel embarrassed. The bonneted fellow gives you a wave. Morning, love. You blink. Is it morning? In some time zone, surely, they shrug. I'm Gramble. I collect the dreams that escape before they're done stewing. You stand, dusting off your knees. And what do you do with them? Air 'em out, Gramble says with a satisfied nod. Let 'em breathe a bit. Then I tuck 'em into the archive of slightly misplaced things. They pause, squinting at you. You're the knight who mistook a cloud for a dragon, aren't you? You nod, a little sheepishly. Gramble smiles, revealing two missing teeth and an air of knowing things they aren't supposed to say aloud. Thought so. You've got that maybe I'm still dreaming look about you. You chuckle. I think I am. Good, Gramble says. Keeps you soft around the edges. They gesture behind the birch trees, where a stone archway stands half submerged in moss. Above it hangs a wooden sign that reads, "This way to the Snorberry Orchard. Quiet feet, please." You mount Pillowmane again. He rises with the creak of old furniture and follow the path beneath the arch. As you travel, the world muffles itself even further. Leaves rustle in whispers. Crickets click in lullaby rhythms. Somewhere far off, an owl politely clears its throat. The orchard arrives all at once, not like a destination, but like a polite interruption in your surroundings. Each tree is squat and plump, branches bowed beneath heavy clusters of deep violet snorberries. They make no sound at all, not until you pick one. You do. Zip. The berry makes a gentle snoring noise as it leaves the branch, curling softly into itself in your palm. Eat it before it falls asleep, murmurs a voice behind you. A woman in a gown made of stitched hammocks leans against the nearest tree, arms crossed and eyes half-lidded. Her hair is woven with dandelions and ribbons. You wonder how long she's been here. Days? Decades? Sir, yawn, she says without being told. Welcome to the orchard. I'm Dree. She holds out a berry of her own. Did you know these fruits are only ripe when dreaming of their own ripeness? You shake your head. Of course you didn't. They're the favorite snack of Fluffwyrms, and of those who court them. You blink. Court them? Dree smiles. You've noticed, haven't you? It's not just following you, it's responding to you. You glance up. The Fluffwyrm is circling lazily again, but now its form is different, longer, sleeker. A soft curl of its misty tail writes hello in the sky, then gently erases it. It's showing off, Dree says, biting into her berry. They do that when they feel seen. The snorberry in your hand lets out a tiny sigh. You eat it. It tastes like the last day of summer. Not the heat or the sweat, but the breeze, the grass, the faint ache of something ending and beginning at the same time. And then, quite without ceremony, you feel a tug. Not physical, but not physical either. It's coming from the sky. From the Fluffworm. Dree raises an eyebrow. It's inviting you up. How? You ask. I don't exactly have wings. She shrugs. Doesn't matter. Fluffworms don't rise to meet you. They lower the sky. Sure enough, the clouds begin to descend. Not rapidly, not alarmingly. Just enough that the mist begins to brush the treetops. Pillowmane huffs and stamps, clearly feeling something shift in the air. Dree steps forward and places a small kiss on Pillowmane's nose. He seems entirely unbothered by this. Tell him, she whispers to you, when the time comes to let go of gravity. You nod. She vanishes between two trees. The orchard blurs at the edges now. Whether from mist or from your eyes refusing to stay open, you're not sure. Everything softens. The mist curls down, wrapping around Pillowmane's legs like silk threads, then around your boots, then your waist, then your chest, and then, very gently, you lift, not jump, not fly, just lift, like a yawn in reverse. Like gravity is suddenly a suggestion you're no longer accepting. You rise. The trees grow small beneath you, and the mist becomes a kind of road, a soft, spiraling thread suspended in nothing. Pillowmane walks it delicately, as though born for this. The sky above unfolds like a book of lullabies, and waiting there, stretched across the wide blue yonder, is the Fluffworm. It curls, unspools, and then aligns itself beside your path, as if walking beside you. Not in front, not behind, beside. Some say the orchard is where Fluffworms first learn to mimic dreams. Others say that knights who eat snorberries often forget they ever needed quests in the first place. Still others whisper of a library hidden in the clouds, filled with the dreams of creatures that never were, but really should have been. You don't know which version is true, but you do know you're no longer entirely on the ground, and you're no longer entirely searching. You're being gently carried towards something, and for now, that's more than enough. The path you follow now is made of soft air and slower time. Each step Pillowmane takes releases a tiny puff of stardust, which floats upward instead of down. The Fluffworm curls along beside you like a great sleepy companion, its body undulating in slow-motion waves as if it's dreaming mid-flight. Sometimes it hums. The hum is low and musical, like a lullaby being hummed into a seashell. Above, the sky thickens with color. Not blue, not gray, but a kind of bruised lavender with threads of golden yawnlight stitched through it. Below, the world has turned cottony, like it's been covered in an extra layer of dream blankets. At some point, though you're not sure when exactly, you pass beneath a string of bells suspended between two clouds. They tinkle gently as you go under, and you feel something leave you. A weight? A worry? You're not sure, but it doesn't seem to matter now. After a while, you notice something ahead on the mist path. A doorway. Not a house, not a hut, just a tall, thin wooden door standing perfectly upright in the middle of nothing. It's painted a soft periwinkle and bears a brass handle shaped like a sleeping snail. A sign beside it reads, "Please knock only if you're already welcome." You raise your hand, pause, knock once. The door creaks open without resistance, revealing a tiny cottage somehow inside the doorway. It should be impossible, but you've been slowly forgetting the rules for several sections now, so you don't question it. You simply guide Pillowmane through. The inside of the cottage smells like toasted parchment and lavender soup. The walls are covered in clocks, but none of them show actual time. Instead, their hands point to moods. Almost ready, slightly hopeful, drowsy but sincere. A tiny woman with a gigantic hat floats past you, not walking, but drifting at knee height. She carries a tray of teacups, each already steaming. "Welcome, dear Cloud Courter," she says without looking up. "Take a seat anywhere you like. The chairs choose their own guests." You look around. There are dozens of chairs, overstuffed, spindly, rocking, folding, whispering. One near the window perks up at the sight of you and scoots forward on its own legs. You sit. The chair exhales beneath you. The Fluffworm peers in through the window, curling a single misty eye around the sill like a nosy neighbor. You feel it watching, but not with judgment, just curiosity, maybe even amusement. The floating woman sets a teacup in your hand. It says, simply, "For misunderstood nights." You take a sip. The tea tastes like a long exhale, like something you forgot you remembered. The woman, whose name, she eventually tells you, is Mrs. Evernap, takes a seat across from you, midair. Her giant hat tips forward as she regards you with a gaze somewhere between grandmother and thundercloud. "So," she says, "you saw a cloud and thought it was a dragon." You nod. She smiles faintly. And now you're wondering if maybe that was the point all along. You open your mouth, then close it again, then sip your tea. People think quests have to be about battles, she says, or treasure, or ending something. But the best ones? She leans forward conspiratorially. The best ones are about mistakes that needed to happen. Outside the window, the fluffworm stretches, forming the vague shape of a question mark with its tail. Mrs. Evernap taps her teacup with a crooked spoon. You're not here to slay. You're here to stay. Just long enough to see what might have been mistaken for danger is actually a very sleepy miracle. You blink slowly. Your eyelids are becoming traitors to the cause of consciousness. Pillowmane has fallen asleep beside the fireplace, hooves twitching as if galloping in a dream. You wonder what noble steeds dream about. Meadows of napgrass? Races that end in nap time? Mrs. Evernap floats toward a cabinet and retrieves something wrapped in twilight fabric. For you, she says. A gift from the Committee of Friendly Misinterpretations. You open it. It's a monocle, but instead of a lens, there's a swirling fog where glass should be. This, she explains, is the cloud clarifier. When worn, it doesn't show what is, but what something almost could be. You raise it to your eye. The world changes. The fire becomes a curled dragon napping in a fireplace. The rug becomes a flying carpet with stage fright. The tea becomes a tiny sea with a spoon paddle boat floating on it. You lower the monocle. You can keep it, Mrs. Evernap says, but only if you promise never to believe what you see is the whole of a thing. You nod. I promise. The monocle disappears. Just poof, gone. You don't worry. You suspect it's in your pocket now, or maybe your mind. Either way, it'll show up again when you need it. The door opens behind you, though no one moves. Outside, the mist path curls onward into the deeper cloudscape, trailing off into sparkles and vague possibilities. Mrs. Evernap gestures with her spoon. Time to go, Knight of the Maybe Dragon. You've got places not to be. You rise, stretch, and wake Pillowmane with a gentle pat. He rises groggily, blinks once, and snorts a cloud ring out his nose. As you leave, the clocks all shift to almost asleep. You step through the door, and the cottage vanishes behind you as if it had never been there at all. Some say Mrs. Evernap was once a weather witch who forgot which storm she was meant to conjure and so made a home in the clouds instead. Others say she's just what happens when a teapot retires and decides to become a person. You don't know which story is true, but as the mist path opens again and the fluffworm coils beside you like a sleepy friend with too many limbs, you think you were never meant to slay it. You were meant to follow it. The mist path carries you onward, though the word forward is starting to feel too goal-oriented for this sort of travel. It's more like being nudged by a sleepy wind that isn't quite sure where it's going, but very sure you'll enjoy getting there. You and Pillowmane drift alongside the fluffworm, who has slowed its coils to match your amble perfectly. Every so often, it emits a soft rumbling exhale that causes the path ahead to shimmer and reform, as though it's being gently exhaled into existence. The air grows thicker with scents now, notes of toasted marshmallows, wet moss, and the peculiar smell of moon-polished silver. You sense a change before you see it, and then it appears, a floating island, small and round as a lily pad, drifting along beside your path. Atop it sits a weathered wooden booth with a crooked sign. The Apothecary of Almosts. Potions for dreams that nearly happened. An ancient tortoise in a knitted waistcoat is arranging vials behind the counter, each labeled in delicate calligraphy. First kiss that almost was, almost became a painter, nearly learned to dance. He looks up as you float near, eyes crinkling in recognition. Well, if it isn't the knight who confused a cumulonimbus with calamity. You nod. I'm starting to feel like that mistake wasn't entirely a mistake. Most good stories begin with an accident, he replies, plucking a particularly fizzy bottle from the shelf. Or indigestion. The tortoise introduces himself as Sofaldric and offers you a sample. A pearly blue tincture labeled Nearly Ask the Right Question. You sip. For a fleeting moment, you recall a time, years ago, maybe, or never, when you sat beneath a tree and nearly said something that might have changed everything. The sensation bubbles up and then fades, not with regret, but with the soft sigh of a page turning in a book you've only partly read. Potions like these, Sofaldric explains, don't fix things. They just remind you how beautifully close you were. You nod, Setting the tiny cup down, Pillowmane nibbles a leaf from a hovering bush that drifts by lazily. The Fluffwyrm lets out a pleased hum, and several of the bottles on the booth rattle sympathetically. "Would you like to see the mirror?" Safaldric asks, voice quieter now. "It's only for those mid-journey." You glance to where he gestures. A circular frame of braided reeds hovers in the air, holding within it a mirror, not of reflection, but of speculation. You step closer. Inside the mirror you see yourself, but not quite yourself. This version wears armor woven from mothwings and fog. Their sword is a silver flute. They're not fighting a dragon, they're dancing with one. You blink. The image blurs, shifts, reshapes itself. Now you're sitting on a cloud, sketching the shapes of sleeping beasts. Now you're teaching a snoreberry how to juggle. Now you're just floating, weightless, eyes closed, entirely at peace. You look away. "It's not the future," Safaldric says gently, "nor the past. It's just the thread of maybes you've already brushed against." He plucks a bell-shaped seed pod from beneath the counter and places it in your hand. "Plant this when you forget why you started. It grows into a nap." You stow it carefully, not entirely sure how, but you know it's with you now. The tortoise waves you off, returning to his vials of almosts and if-onlys, humming a tune that sounds like an apology written in lullabies. As you glide onward, the mist thins, and up ahead, clear as a memory you haven't had yet, you see a gathering of creatures. Drifting gently across the path, some on clouds, others on dream beasts, all facing the same direction. There are slow blinking cats with wings made of patchwork umbrellas. Sleeping satyrs sipping warm stardrops from porcelain bowls. An elderly kraken coiled politely in a hammock, its tentacles folded like knitting needles. All are heading toward a single place. A floating amphitheater carved from marble moonlight and echo. You follow the quiet current toward it. As you arrive, a silken-robed usher with a snout like a fox and a voice like a lullaby beckons you to your seat. Pillowmane is given a cushion. The Fluffwyrm coils high above, watching with one enormous lazy eye half closed in anticipation. A hush falls. From behind a velvet curtain stitched with yawn thread and moths, a figure emerges. A bard with antlers strung with wind chimes and eyes that flicker like candle flame. They raise a hand. "Tonight," they say, "we share a myth long thought too boring to be remembered. The tale of the knight who saw a dragon and chose to dream instead." You sit straighter, well, sleepier, but your attention sharpens. The bard begins to play a harp made of soft-spoken regrets and half-remembered lullabies. The sound wraps around the audience like a blanket that's been warmed by memory. The story they tell is yours. But not exactly. Their version includes a puddle that turned into a wishing mirror, a librarian made entirely of dust jackets, and a moment when the knight gave the dragon a spoonful of marmalade and it wept with gratitude. The crowd sighs in appreciation. You listen, entranced, not because it's true, but because it could be. When the tale ends, the audience rises not to cheer, but to gently applaud with gloved hands and sleepy wings. The bard bows low. Stories like this, they say, are not for remembering. They're for dreaming into again and again. You rise, not entirely sure when the performance ended. Pillowmane stretches. The Fluffwyrm lowers its tail like a staircase, just in case anyone would like to ascend. Some say the amphitheater is older than time, built from forgotten nursery rhymes. Others say it was imagined by a child who never woke up, and the dream became real out of sheer stubborn coziness. You don't ask which is true. Instead, you drift once more onto the cloud path, the melody of your story still humming faintly in your bones. And for the first time in a very long time, you're not searching for a dragon, you're walking with one. The cloud path narrows now, turning from a soft trail into a spiraling ribbon that loops and weaves like a sleepy waltz across the sky. You and Pillowmane follow it without thought, your feet adjusting to its curling pace as though you've always walked like this, dancing gently through the air with a half-dozing horse and a dragon-shaped fog. The Fluffwyrm hums beside you, its voice now lower, slower, more rhythmic. It pulses through the path itself, and you realize the whole ribbon is moving in time with its breath. Each inhale lifts you a little higher. Each exhale dips the world just so. You pass over pockets of sky dotted with floating laundry lines, where great cloaks of vanished heroes flap lazily in the breeze. Some say the wind is strongest where forgotten deeds are hung out to dry. The path carries you toward a peculiar bend in the air, a sign. drifting lazily on a string of whispering wind, reads, "Here there be tea." You squint. There is, in fact, a tea party ahead. Mid-air. No ground beneath it. No roof above. Just a circle of chairs, floating serenely around a table that spins very, very slowly. The guests? An owl in a waistcoat balancing a cup on its head. A pile of animated moss wearing a monocle. A trio of floating, softly snoring hedgehogs. A knight in mirror-polished armor that seems to be made of actual moonlight, their helmet resting on the table, revealing a face etched with kind confusion. They all glance at you as you arrive, and the moss pile waves a leafy limb. "Ah, the dragon mistaker," the owl says, nodding sagely. "You're just in time for the whisper brew." The spinning table slows, and you step into an empty chair, which hums softly as it catches your weight. Pillowmane curls beside it, sipping something floral from a teacup balanced on his hoof. The Fluffwyrm circles lazily above, spiraling like a sky ribbon unspooling itself. A teapot glides to you on a cushion of warm air. It's whispering something. You lean close. It's not language exactly. More like the echo of thoughts you haven't finished having. When you sip the tea, it tastes like a memory you almost made real. The scent of pages you didn't read, and the glow of dusk on a path you didn't take, but meant to. "You're seeking something?" the mirror-armored knight asks, adjusting their seat. You nod, then shrug. "I thought it was a dragon, then maybe a story. Now I'm not sure." "Good," says the moss pile, chuckling in a voice like mulched poetry. "Certainty ruins the flavor of things." The owl, who you now realize has an hourglass tied to its leg that runs backward, clinks its teacup against yours. "Did you know," it offers, "that in the Northwind realms, knights are trained to misinterpret clouds on purpose? They believe every mistake reveals a truth hiding in plain sight." "Sometimes," adds one of the hedgehogs sleepily, "what looks like a monster is just a misplaced nap." You sip again. The table begins to spin faster, but the world doesn't follow. Instead, it holds still while everything around you seems to soften. The knight beside you reaches into a pouch and pulls out a small silver box. It's humming gently, like a lullaby trying to remember itself. "Take this," they say. "It's a sleep compass. It doesn't point north. It points inward, toward the places inside you that are still wondering." You accept it, and immediately it floats into the air before you, the needle inside spinning slowly, lazily, as though deciding whether or not to bother being helpful. The moss pile leans over and pats your knee. You're getting close, you know. Not to an end, but to something soft and important. Then the tea begins to lift you. Not metaphorically. The very teacup rises into the air, taking you with it, as though politely suggesting it's time to move on. You hover higher. Pillowmane rises too, seated on a biscuit-shaped saucer. The Fluffwyrm coils around both of you like a safety ribbon made of yawns. Below, the tea party continues, though you suspect it may pause entirely once you're out of sight. The sleep compass floats beside you, its needle now pointing toward a dense swirl of clouds ahead. A storm, perhaps? No, not quite. It has too much shimmer for that. Too much gentleness. You drift into it. Inside, the air is different. Heavier, warmer, like the weight of a thick blanket being tucked around your shoulders. It smells like wood smoke and old lullabies, like the inside of a bookshop that only stocks forgotten bedtime stories. Shapes emerge. A corridor, somehow floating midair, with doors lining either side. Each door bears a plaque with a dream engraved into it. The picnic that never happened. The pet you meant to name. The letter you almost sent. One door creaks open. Inside is a cozy room, a rocking chair, a window showing nothing but slow-moving stars. You step inside and sit, and it feels for a moment like this might be yours. Pillowmane curls beside the chair, eyes already closed. The Fluffwyrm slips into the ceiling like smoke with a purpose. The sleep compass stops spinning. You sit in silence, listening. Somewhere, faintly, the ticking of a clock made from a forgotten lullaby echoes. You're not sure what this room is. Maybe it's not meant to be anything but a place to pause. Some say there are entire castles floating through the sky made of these rooms, one for every moment someone almost let themselves rest. Others say the doors change every night, responding to wandering hearts that mistake clouds for dragons. You close your eyes. The chair rocks. The dream continues. The chair rocks slowly, not from any wind or push, but from the memory of movement, like it's still swaying from some long-ago moment of comfort. You don't fight the rhythm. It asks nothing of you. It simply continues. You sit with your hands in your lap, and your thoughts begin to drift in strange directions. Neither forward nor backward, but in gentle loops and sideways curls, like a thought that's gotten tired of being linear. Pillowmane breathes softly at your feet, his belly rising and falling like a hill covered in soft moss. The sleep compass floats beside the chair, still and silent, its needle pointing somewhere inward, into corners of yourself not usually lit. The room begins to change. Not suddenly, but like a slow yawn stretching into a different shape. The rocking chair sinks a little lower, and the walls melt outward, revealing that you're not in a room at all, but on a sleepy veranda that floats through the dusk. Around it are other porches and platforms and hammocks and nests, each gently drifting, each holding someone or something sleeping. It's the napping district, a whole neighborhood of quiet dreamers gliding like lanterns through the sky. A soft chime sounds overhead as an enormous jellyfish-shaped airship passes by, its tendrils dangling cozy hammocks, each carrying a curled-up passenger holding a book they've already forgotten. A tall figure floats past on a cushioned breeze, a goose in reading glasses, wrapped in a shawl of cloud fleece, holding a clipboard and mumbling to herself. Very good dream density on porch 23B, excellent snore harmony metrics. She spots you and stops mid-drift. Ah, we've been expecting you, she honks politely. Just relax, you're doing exceptionally well. You nod, unsure whether you're being evaluated or tucked in. She scribbles something and floats onward. To your left, one of the floating nests carries a sleeping minotaur with a half-knitted scarf wrapped around his horns. To your right, a great winged cat is curled in a hammock, tail twitching gently as it chases stars in its sleep. And somewhere above, you hear the distant cooing of the napbirds, legendary creatures who only sing lullabies they overhear in dreams. You watch them circle a crescent moon, their feathers shimmering with snore sparkles and whispers caught mid-slumber. Some say, murmurs a voice to your right, that this district only appears to those who finally stopped trying to arrive. You turn and see a woman made entirely of mist and library dust, reclining on a chaise that wasn't there a moment ago. She's knitting fog into a scarf and looking at you with eyes that don't quite stay still. Your mistake, she adds, was the only possible way in. You open your mouth to respond, but instead you yawn. She nods in approval. You'll want to visit the Sandletter Pavilion soon, she says, motioning lazily to a spire of shimmering gold rising in the distance. They're collecting dreams tonight. You can donate one if you like. Doesn't even have to be yours. You glance at the Fluffwyrm, which has returned, coiled silently along the veranda railing like a living draft excluder. Its enormous eye opens a sliver. You feel a warmth in your chest that might be permission. The veranda shifts slightly beneath you and begins to drift toward the pavilion. The air grows warmer, deeper somehow, like water that's been sung to sleep. You pass a shop carved entirely from yawnwood, its sign reading, Snug & Co., Embroiderers of the Unfinished Dream. You pass a lantern post made of stacked teacups, each glowing with the remembered light of a childhood bedroom. You pass a weeping willow whose leaves are stitched with tiny notes, each one a last line someone forgot to write. Then the Sandletter Pavilion unfolds ahead of you, a tall, open structure held up by spiraling columns of braided shadow and hush. It doesn't touch the ground, because there is no ground here. It just is. Inside, long tables are arranged in gentle arcs where creatures of all sorts sit hunched over pieces of parchment, quills bobbing, soft music drifting like dust. You approach one of the tables, and a plump badger in a cravat gestures you forward. Name of the dream? He asks, quill poised. I'm not sure. He nods. That's all right. We get a lot of those. He slides a blank sheet toward you. Write what you remember, or what you wish you did. You hold the quill. For a moment, nothing. Then, gently, the words begin to flow, not from your hand, but from somewhere farther in. The ink glows softly, fading even as you write it, like a memory being whispered back into sleep. You don't read what you've written. You just know it's enough. The badger seals it with a kiss and tucks it into a shimmering satchel. Thank you, he says sincerely. Someone will dream this tonight. As you step back, a soft bell sounds again. A hush falls across the pavilion. Then, from above, a rain of dream petals begins to fall. Tiny bits of color and scent and song drifting down like confetti made from bedtime. One lands on your shoulder. You pluck it gently and hold it to your ear. It hums, a lullaby your mother never sang but meant to. You hum it back. Some say the Sandletter Pavilion is built from the abandoned prayers of daydreamers. Others say it was constructed by the first person to nap through their own destiny and woke up better for it. You don't ask which is true. Instead, you drift once more toward the edge of the pavilion, where the air thickens like honey and the horizon is stitched with hammocks and moonbeams. The sleep compass stirs again. The needle swings, lazily now, toward a great archway ahead, framed in soft moss and flickering fireflies, each glowing like punctuation in a sentence the stars are trying to finish. The Fluffwyrm nudges your back with a warm puff of breath. It's time to continue. You pass beneath the archway of moss and fireflies, and immediately the air hushes, like walking into the heart of a sigh. It's dusk here, or dawn. You can't quite tell. The light is the color of lavender milk, and it seems to come from everywhere and nowhere all at once. A hush hangs over the path ahead, woven of stillness and the soft rustle of invisible feathers. You're walking again, though you don't remember rising from the floating pavilion. Pillowmane plods quietly beside you, his hooves muffled by the mossy path that seems to grow with each step, as if eager to meet your feet. The sleep compass floats at shoulder height, the needle wobbling gently now, like it's growing sleepier with you. The path leads into a strange orchard. Each tree glows faintly from within, as though lit by the dreams of small creatures sleeping in the branches. Their trunks are twisted into soft spirals, and their leaves shimmer like old silver, quiet, slightly translucent, and always trembling. This is the Groves of Forgotten Explanations. A place, the Fluffwyrm murmurs from the air above, where unanswered questions go to root themselves into something soft. Some say that every time a child asks, "But why?" and never gets an answer, a new sapling sprouts here. You reach the first tree. Hanging from its branches are little glowing fruits, each shaped like a question mark. One dangles low, and you brush it gently with your fingers. Why did the moon leave its reflection behind? You smile at that one. Pillowmane eats a fruit casually and immediately hiccups a bubble shaped like an exclamation point. The Fluffwyrm huffs with amusement and wraps itself in a lazy coil around a higher branch, eye closed again but tail twitching slightly. You continue deeper into the grove, passing under bowers of blooming confusion. The air smells of rain on parchment. A breeze carries the sound of overlapping whispers, too quiet to understand, but somehow comforting in their unknowability. You find a small bench carved from sleep wood, its grain forming a spiral like the inside of a seashell. You sit, and the bench adjusts itself to your shape, sighing slightly beneath you. On a branch above, a little bell-shaped blossom rings faintly when a petal falls. You look up and notice a plaque nailed into the trunk nearby. It reads, "No one knows where the sun goes when it's not around, but some say it's sleeping in the pocket of a giant." The sleep compass tugs slightly toward the east, if east exists here. You follow its pull, your steps leaving slow-glowing footprints that fade behind you. Ahead, the grove thins into a clearing. At its center is a low stone pedestal, covered in moss and moondust, with a book resting open upon it. The pages turn slowly, even though there's no wind. You step closer and realize each page contains a moment someone almost understood something, but not quite. A baker staring at the stars, flour on their cheek. A cat watching rain and wondering if it dreams. A child forgetting what they were about to say, but knowing it mattered. You don't try to read more. You just stand there, feeling the hush press gently against your shoulders, right like an unseen hand reminding you that silence can be generous. Somewhere above, a cloud shaped like a question mark drifts lazily past the sliver of moon. You follow it with your eyes, and for a moment, you feel like you almost remember something important. Not a fact, not a name, but a feeling. That sensation of turning the last page of a book and realizing you didn't really want to know how it ended. You take a deep breath. The moss is thicker underfoot now, and you feel your heels sink a little, as if the world is inviting you to lie down right here and become part of the soil of wonder. But the sleep compass stirs again. It floats forward slowly, its needle now glowing faintly golden, and leads you out of the clearing. You pass under an arch of vines shaped like the alphabet, though the letters change order every time you blink. Past a pond where tadpoles swim in concentric circles, chasing their own tails. past a stone where someone has carved. I never knew what I didn't know, and that's all right. Eventually, you reach the edge of the grove, where a weathered gate leans slightly open. A carved sign hangs from it, swaying gently. Nothing beyond this point will be fully understood. You smile. It's the kind of smile that doesn't reach your lips but warms your cheeks nonetheless. As you step through, you notice the light has softened even further. Everything here is filtered, like a dream viewed through half-closed eyes. You can still hear Pillowmane behind you and the Fluffwyrm overhead, and now, something else. A melody. Faint, wandering. Played on an instrument that doesn't exist but feels familiar. Maybe a harp made of wind chimes. Maybe a lullaby being hummed by the hills themselves. The sleep compass pulses softly in your palm. You are heading towards something important. Not urgent, not sharp, but important in the way a hug is, or the sound of rain on a roof while you drift off. Somewhere ahead lies the Cloud Heart, or so the legends claim. You aren't entirely sure what that means, but you know you're close. And for now, that's enough. And the Cloud Heart, they say, is the softest place in the world. Not because it's made of cloud, though that certainly helps, but because it's the only place where nothing tries to be anything else. Everything here is exactly what it is, and exactly what it needs to be. No more and no less. You step into a hush so profound it makes your ears ring for just a moment, as though the world is reminding you. This silence isn't empty. It's full. The moss gives way to cloud stuff, cool beneath your feet, but never damp, like walking on a sigh that hasn't been finished yet. Pillowmane slows beside you, his eyes wide and calm. He says nothing, but you can feel his contentment through the steady rhythm of his steps. Above you, the Fluffwyrm coils lazily in the air, dragging behind it a ribbon of glimmering breath that forms little stars and sleepy punctuation marks. You reach a hill that wasn't there before. Or maybe it was, and you simply weren't looking the right way. The sleep compass floats ahead and lands softly on the peak, resting there as if to say, "Here, this is the place." You follow. From the top, you see a great basin of clouds stretched out below you, vast, pale, glowing softly from within. Wisps drift upward like thoughts rising too slowly to be said aloud. In the very center of the basin is a pulsing light. Not bright, not flashing, just steady, like a sleepy heartbeat. This is the Cloud Heart. It hums, not in sound but in feeling. A kind of inner quiet you didn't know you missed until now. Some say this place forms whenever someone truly lets go of needing answers. Others insist it's what's left behind when a storm forgets to be angry. There are no structures here. No signs, no markers, only soft rolling cloud and gentle shapes resting here and there, creatures sleeping, beings waiting, thoughts not quite born. One such creature sits nearby, half buried in fluff. It looks a bit like a snail, if a snail had eyebrows and wore a woolen vest. It's holding a teacup full of nothing and sipping it with great ceremony. Lovely weather, it says, though there's no weather to speak of. You nod because it's true. Another figure drifts by overhead, a fish gliding through the air as if it were water. It wears a monocle and leaves a trail of tiny bubbles that pop into sleepy giggles. The world here is soft logic. Kindness without explanation. You sit, cross-legged, as Pillowmane settles beside you and lets out a deep, satisfied breath. The sleep compass glows once more, then slowly fades to clear, its needle spinning aimlessly. It has done its job. The Fluffwyrm floats down to join you, curling up like a vast sleepy comma, wrapping itself around your shoulders like a scarf. You feel your own weight differently now, not heavier or lighter, just honest. As if you've stopped pretending you need to be more awake than you are. Nearby, a cluster of cloud bees hums past, tiny bees made entirely of mist and soft light. They land on a flower that grows upside down and seems to be snoring faintly. One bee bumps into your elbow and leaves behind a scent like fresh laundered memory. You lie back. The sky above is the color of unspoken lullabies. A gentle swirl moves across it. Not quite clouds, not quite stars, just soft motion, like the inside of a seashell's dream. You close your eyes for just a moment, and when you open them again, a gentle figure stands before you. Tall and robed in feathers and fog. No face, exactly, just the sense of one. The kind of presence that smiles without moving anything at all. It raises a hand and offers you something, a small glass orb filled with light, and within it, a dragon. Or a cloud that thinks it's a dragon. Tiny wings, wisps of breath, a gentle curl of smoke. "The one you chased," says the figure, its voice like warm wind. "It was never meant to be slain, only seen." You take the orb gently, and the little dragon inside winks. Then it stretches, yawns, and curls into a sleepy spiral. Some say the Cloud Heart is where all mistaken quests come to rest, not as failures, but as finished dreams. They're not forgotten, just softened. You glance at the dragon again, and for the first time, you don't feel the urge to chase it. Instead, you carry it with you. The figure nods, then steps back and fades, not like vanishing, but like a memory choosing to stay quiet. You rise slowly. The sleep compass floats up once more, but instead of pointing, it simply hums, a deep, restful tone that vibrates gently through your chest and settles somewhere behind your eyes. You and Pillowmane begin to walk again. There is no road, no sign, no direction, only movement, gentle, dream-bound, certain. Behind you, the Fluffwyrm lets out a puff of cloud from its nose, like it's laughing in its sleep. Ahead, the world shifts. You see the outline of something rising in the near distance, dim lights, warm windows, and chimneys puffing out dreams shaped like muffins and mandolins. A village. Small, impossible, familiar. You step forward. The Cloud Heart behind you continues to pulse. Quiet, constant. It doesn't need to be watched. Just remembered. The village rises like a whisper out of the cloud. Rooftops peaking first, then lanterns glowing low in the haze, and finally cobbled streets that seem to unroll just in time for your feet to find them. It has no name, this place, because no one ever needed one. Everyone here knows where they are. And that is enough. The houses are small, round, and built from what looks like a mixture of warm stone, woven thatch, and bits of lullaby. Their chimneys curl gently like sleepy question marks, and the smoke that drifts out smells of warm bread and things you forgot you loved. Pillowmane trots beside you, his steps echoing lightly on the cobblestones. The Fluffwyrm trails behind like an extremely long scarf, blinking drowsily and occasionally mistaking lampposts for tree trunks. A sign hangs over the first door you pass. It reads, "Tibbet and Sons, naps repaired, dreams stitched, socks matched, usually." Inside, through a fogged window, you glimpse a very round man asleep at a loom made of spiderwebs and wind. Each thread he weaves shimmers with flickers of memory, an unfinished song, a forgotten name, a laugh that once echoed across a lake at sunset. You smile and move on. Further down the street, you pass a fountain where the water runs backward. Small children, or possibly very old birds, float paper boats made of yawn paper and murmur things to them before setting them adrift. One boat bumps your shoe. Written on it is a single word, almost. The village square is shaped like a teacup. In the center stands a statue carved from moonwood, a knight in full armor, helmet tucked under one arm, gazing up at the sky with a bewildered expression. Beneath it, an inscription reads, "To all who thought they were chasing dragons." Somehow, it makes your chest ache and soften at the same time. The villagers move quietly, gently. No one rushes. No one barks orders. Even the dogs wag slowly. One of them approaches you, a sleepy golden thing with ears like folded handkerchiefs, and drops a velvet glove at your feet before curling up around your ankle with a sigh. You keep it. In a nook near the statue, an elderly woman is stirring a pot over a fire made of glow moss. She waves you over without looking, as if she knew you'd come all along. "You're later than I expected," she says, offering you a bowl of something between porridge and memory foam. It tastes like the moment right before you fall asleep. She gestures to a cushion beside her. You sit. "I suppose you've seen it by now," she says. You nod, though you're not entirely sure what it is. The Cloud Heart, maybe? Or the orb? Or the truth that's quietly settled beneath your ribs? She nods back, satisfied. "They all think the dragon is the end of the story," she mutters, ladling out another bowl for a cat that doesn't seem to exist. But it's never the dragon. It's the mistake. That's where the magic hides. You think of the dragon curled in its glass orb, still nestled in your pocket, still not roaring, still not burning anything, just sleeping. "Some say this village only appears to those who misunderstood something important," she continues, now knitting a scarf that turns into fog as she goes. "But I think it's gentler than that. I think it appears to those who finally stop trying to understand it all." The scarf slithers off her lap and out into the street, wrapping itself gently around a lamppost before dissolving into glitter. You thank her and rise again. The village is changing subtly now, becoming more itself. The houses lean closer as if listening. The windows blink like sleepy eyes. Somewhere, a choir of bells made entirely of feathers begins to sing. Not music exactly, but something like remembering. A shop door swings open as you pass. The sleep compass floats in ahead of you, its needle glowing faintly green now, calm and curious. The shop is filled with maps, but not of places, of feelings. One wall shows a chart titled Territories of Almost Being Okay. Another displays a winding trail marked From Embarrassment to Acceptance, via nap. A clerk with a face like candle wax and hands like old paper offers you a map stitched on a quilt. It depicts a journey you never took, but somehow recognize. You fold it carefully and tuck it under your arm. It hums very softly when you hold it close. Outside again, the village begins to dim. Not with nightfall exactly, but with the gentle fade of stories nearing their end. Lanterns flicker. Shadows grow comfortable. Someone plays a tune on an instrument that could be a clarinet or just a sigh through a hollow bone. You find a bench beneath a signpost with no signs, only the words. If you're here, you're exactly where you're meant to be. You sit, and Pillowmane curls beside you. The Fluffwyrm climbs into your lap without asking and promptly begins snoring. The sleep compass floats one last time into the air, spins gently, and melts into a drifting cloud. The orb in your pocket pulses gently, one last little beat, and then stills. You let your eyes close, just for a second, just to listen, to the village breathing, to the story settling, to the sky growing heavier with soft stars that may not stay. Somewhere in the square, the statue hums. You may not have found the dragon you thought you were chasing, but you found this, and that may have been the point all along. You don't remember standing up, but here you are, walking again. The village behind you sighs into mist. Roofs blur, windows dim, and even the statue begins to fade like something remembered in the wrong order. Pillowmane stays close at your side. The Fluffwyrm, heavier now with contentment, drapes itself lazily around your shoulders like a story that doesn't need telling anymore. The path ahead isn't really a path, more like a suggestion. Soft moss underfoot gives way to moon-kissed grass that doesn't mind being stepped on. Each blade gently leans aside for your footfall, then returns upright with the grace of someone who forgives you before you even stumble. Above, the sky is now indigo velvet, stretched smooth, stitched with stars that refuse to twinkle. They simply glow, steady and drowsy, like lanterns left out for those who wander past midnight. A quiet breeze arrives, smelling faintly of warm parchment and a little honey. It rustles your hair, brushes your cheek, and whispers something you don't quite catch. You round a bend that wasn't there moments ago and find a small archway made entirely of antlers, all tangled with vines of silver ivy. A wooden sign dangles from the middle. Last turn before elsewhere. You duck under without hesitation. On the other side, a glade, perfect in its imperfection. Stones that glow gently underfoot, a brook that hums lullabies in a minor key, and fireflies that blink in Morse code no one remembers. A hammock strung between two trees invites you, though you don't recall bringing a hammock, or even seeing these trees before now. They're oddly familiar, one with bark like old notebooks, the other with leaves shaped like question marks. You lie down without thinking, and the hammock cradles you like a memory that knows exactly where it left off. Pillowmane curls at your feet. The Fluffwyrm loops into a perfect O beside your shoulder. The stars blink just once, then still again. In the trees, a few nocturnal creatures stir, a snoozle fox wearing tiny slippers, a three-eyed owl reciting dream recipes, a hedgehog carrying a teaspoon of lightning in a matchbox, just in case. Somewhere nearby, someone or something plucks a harp made entirely of falling petals. The sound does not insist, it simply exists. A tiny book flutters down from the sky, landing open across your chest. The pages turn on their own, showing sketches, your journey so far. The night, the dragon cloud, the cloud heart, the village. Each image flickers with movement like a candle's memory of a shadow. And then a blank page. The next one, too. You understand. You're meant to rest here a while. Let the pages write themselves. A voice, your own voice maybe, or the winds with a hint of tea murmurs. You never needed to solve it. You just needed to stay long enough to soften. A shooting star drifts by at half speed, slow enough to wave. You wave back. Beneath your hammock, the earth breathes. Above, the stars lean a little closer. Pillowmane begins to snore, which sounds curiously like the distant clink of spoon against mug. The Fluffwyrm lets out a long sigh and says without opening its eyes, "We're almost home, you know." And you do know. Even if you don't know what home means right now. It could be the hammock. It could be this moment. It could be wherever you are when you stop needing to be somewhere else. A small cloud floats down, as if it forgot where the sky ends, and bumps gently against your leg. Inside it, a single feather. You pick it up, and as your fingers close around it, you hear a faint echo of all the things you never quite understood, and how that was always okay. Somewhere, a chime rings. Once, gently, a signal. Not an end, just a change of tempo. The air thickens in a pleasant way, like warm milk, like pages turning slower, like someone wrapping up a lullaby without wanting to finish it too quickly. You let your eyes fall shut again. Behind your lids, you see the dragon once more. Still mist, still cloud, but this time it doesn't flee. It curls up beside you and sleeps. It is morning, but only technically. The sky has shifted from velvet to a gauzy pale blue, like someone washed the stars but forgot to wring them out completely. They still dangle above you, dripping faint light into the branches. You rise, slowly, with the feeling that you've already done a great deal today, even though your feet haven't moved. The hammock folds itself into a neat bundle and vanishes with a polite pop, leaving behind the faint scent of lavender and unspoken forgiveness. Pillowmane yawns, revealing a tongue that appears to be made of quilted flannel. The Fluffwyrm does not yawn, only stretches with the kind of deliberate elegance that says, "I've earned this nap," and all the ones that follow. Your boots, which you don't remember removing, are waiting just beside a toadstool, neatly polished, laces tucked into tiny respectful bows. You slip them on, and the world beckons again. Not far ahead, you notice a staircase. It wasn't there before, but that's hardly surprising anymore. Each step is made of something different. The first of glass, the second of bread crust, the third of old lullabies stitched into felt. They don't creak, they murmur, each one offering a sleepy compliment as your foot lands. Well done. Nice balance. That's the spirit. The stairway leads upward, curling through the branches of trees whose leaves are scribbled with unfinished poems and tucked-in secrets. You pass one leaf that reads, "The dragon was always you, but softer." You don't take it with you. It feels like it belongs to the tree. At the top, you emerge into a round clearing, floating gently in the clouds. It's a little island in the sky. Not dramatic, not stormy, just hovering politely. A circular table waits in the center, set for tea. Around it sit an assortment of beings who seem to have been expecting you. A fox wearing a monocle and a dressing gown, stirring their tea with a twig. A human-sized owl who nods solemnly and adjusts a napkin tucked beneath their feathers. A glowing wisp in a teacup who communicates through little puffs of steam that smell like memory. One seat remains open. You take it. The teapot refills itself. Everyone nods. No one says, "Welcome back." But the feeling hangs in the air like cinnamon. The tea tastes like a decision you don't regret. There's a plate of biscuits shaped like common anxieties. One resembles a cracked watch, another a missed opportunity. You nibble one shaped like a question mark and find it tastes unexpectedly like marshmallow and roasted chestnut. Across the table, the owl clears its throat. It is customary, they say, at this point in the story, to acknowledge that it never really made sense. You nod. The fox raises a toast to mistakes, misread signs, and misguided quests. The wisp makes a happy puff and then sneezes. You laugh. Quietly. Not everything is meant to be solved. Eventually, the tea service clears itself away. The island begins to drift, slowly, steadily, toward a cloud shaped like a door. You drift with it. The owl leans over and whispers, "Do you remember the cloud heart?" You nod, touching your pocket. It pulses faintly again. Not urgently, just present. The owl smiles. Good, because it remembers you. The door in the cloud opens, no handle. Just an invitation. You pass through and find yourself, not in another landscape, not in another mystery, but in a hallway made entirely of time. The walls shimmer with moments, a stumble on a cobbled street, the way the tea shop bell jingled twice instead of once, the faint hum of the glass orb against your chest. None of it needed decoding. It just needed noticing. At the end of the hallway is a mirror, but it does not show your reflection. It shows the dragon, still curled in mist, still peaceful. But now when it breathes, you see the fog shape into images, your steps, your rests, your hesitations, your courage. It was never chasing you. It was following, protecting, softening the fall. You step closer to the mirror. The glass shivers. The dragon looks up. It blinks, not threateningly, but like an old friend who knows how the story ends and doesn't need to spoil it. It curls its tail around itself and speaks, though not aloud. The message settles somewhere in your chest. You may go back now if you wish, or stay. This story doesn't mind either way. You smile. There is nothing to defeat here, only things to drift through. The cloud heart pulses one final time and then with a sigh turns to mist in your hand. Nothing is lost, just lighter now. You turn from the mirror and find that the hallway is gone. Only sky remains, and the slow, steady hush of something ending gently. The sky stretches out, soft as old parchment, dappled with peachy clouds like ink blots that forgot what they were trying to be. Somewhere behind you, a chime rings again. Just once, like a polite punctuation mark at the end of a long sentence. You're floating now. Not flying, not falling. Just drifting. As if the world is holding you like a well-loved bookmark, still useful, still important, but free to rest between chapters. Below, far below, the world unfolds slowly. There's the village, now seen from above. Roofs like buttons, streets like sleepy scribbles, and the statue, yes, the one of the knight, now clearly smiling. You were right, it wasn't a frown. Past that, the floating market, its stalls glowing with soft, drowsy lamplight. The spoon vendor is packing up, humming an off-key lullaby. The milkfish is sleeping with one eye open as usual. You spot the cloud where the dragon slept. It's still there, still curled, still dreaming. A flock of invisible birds passes by, visible only by the faint trails of glitter their wings leave behind. They sing something that sounds like a nursery rhyme, if you've never heard any nursery rhymes before. You pass gently through the remains of the mist hedge maze, now rearranged itself into a spiral. At its center, a tea set is steaming softly. No one is there, and yet, no one is missing. A breeze wraps around you like a shawl. It smells like pages turned in a sunbeam. And you hear a voice, not above or below, not outside or in, just present. It says, "You are the night, you are the cloud, you are the dragon too." And that's all. Nothing else is needed. Pillowmane floats up beside you, purring like distant thunder muffled in velvet. The fluffworm unfurls, flicks its tail, and chuckles. "Well," it says, "that was nicely confusing, wasn't it?" You nod dreamily. "Shall we land?" it asks. You don't respond, but the world hears the yes anyway. The drifting slows. The clouds thicken, tender as whipped cream. A soft hill rises to meet you, covered in pillowflowers and dandelanterns. You land with the lightness of a thought you didn't need to finish. Everything around you is quiet in that special way, where silence doesn't mean absence, just fullness. A few sleepy creatures peek out from burrows and bushes. The snoozle fox waves, its tiny slippers neatly arranged by its nest. The spoon beetle crawls across your shoe, pauses, then decides it's too tired to explore and curls up right there. The air is heavy with the scent of baked dreams and warm moss. And then the sky shifts, not in color, but in feeling. The kind of shift that suggests a curtain being drawn, not to hide something, but to say that's enough for now. You lie down, not because you must, but because you may. The ground welcomes you like an old friend who still remembers your favorite story. The fluffworm coils nearby, forming the world's laziest figure eight. Pillowmane climbs onto your chest and immediately melts into a snoring puddle. You close your eyes, not to sleep necessarily, but to listen. Somewhere, not far, the harp made of petals plays again. Its tune is slower now, soft, almost slurred with contentment. The wind carries a final whisper. Nothing here was wasted. Nothing ever is. The stars have returned. They blink. You don't. You're too busy letting go of time, letting go of quests, letting the dragon rest, letting yourself be everything and nothing at once, letting the story sleep. You lie still, and the world quiets with you. The ground beneath your back seems to breathe, slowly, deeply, like an old book settling into the warmth of its own pages. Above, the clouds no longer drift. They simply exist, suspended, like the silence after a lullaby. The fluffworm stirs once, then stills, its breath syncing with your own. Pillowmane makes one final soft snuffle, curls tighter, and disappears into a little foggy puddle of sleep. Even your shadow seems to have nodded off, its edges blurred, its weight gone light. Somewhere far away, perhaps just a memory now, The dragon cloud exhales once more, gently spreading itself across the heavens like a sigh that has been waiting centuries to relax. Nothing asks for your attention. No more doors to open. No more puzzles to hold in your lap like impatient kittens. Even the stars are quiet now, their gleam softened to the glow of remembered dreams. You don't need to leave. You don't need to stay. You are simply here, and here is soft, here is slow, here is enough. The grass cradles your body like a story cradles its final line. The air folds itself around you like a quilt made from all the moments you didn't think mattered, but somehow always did. Your breathing settles, longer now, softer now. You may not remember this place when you wake, but it will remember you. It always has. So rest. Nothing will hurry. Nothing will end. And if you dream, may it be gentle, full of clouds that smile, dragons that nap, and quiet cups of tea you never needed to finish. The story fades, but you float on.